Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Something a little bit different today, an inbox review with no build to follow. So what is going on, you say? Well, a friend of mine, Keith Short, has some kits that he wanted me to do some inbox reviews for. So that's what I'm going to do. So Keith, I hope you enjoy them. Alright, the first kit in this series is the 1/48 scale German heavy tank destroyer Elefant by Tamiya. It is kit number 32589. So the box is the typical of the 1/48 scale series. Nice artwork with a black border. Scheme on the side there. On the end, just another picture with this little tab here that says includes one torso figure and one set of markings. A couple of photos of the real deal. Some very informative Japanese writing there, I'm sure. But yeah, that is the box. Crack the box open, and this is what we've got. We've got some Zimmerit decals or stickers or whatever they are. We'll take a look at that. We've got a metal barrel. Now obviously these are things that he's added to the kit, but we have the Aber metal barrel. We'll take a better look at all this stuff. Then we have the instructions. We have background information, tech tips, and plastic. All right, let's start at the beginning with the paper goods. I've got the instructions here. Typical of Tamiya instructions, some information, read before assembly, caution stuff. Gives a list of the paints required, which are in the TS, which are the spray cans, X and XF series, which are the acrylic jars. And then recommended tools and cements. It's a fold-out type, not a booklet type, which some people seem to just really cringe over, but they're just instructions. And then right here it says, attention, detail up parts not included. Zimmerit coating can be reproduced using separately sold detail up part set listed below. See page 9 when using item 35187 with putty. So, Zimmerit coating sheet, item number 12671. So that's cool. They give you that information so you can, do the Zimmerit a little easier. So instructions are basic Tamiya instructions. 1 is the gun mount. 2 is the upper hull, which is in a number of pieces. Then 3 is upper hull 2, which is assembling the front of the casemate, the top, the engine deck, and the back. Then we have, an attaching fenders. Step 4. Step number 5, attaching the front fenders. Also some armor plating. Then we have the lower hull, which includes weights, which we'll look at when we get into it. Lower hull sides, final drives. Then we have the drive sprockets and road wheels, the jack. Then we have in step 8, the suspension, and front and back drive sprockets, no idler, as they were powered front and back by electric motors, which was kind of an unusual deal and was par for the course for Porsche's designs. And then attaching the wheels. Step 9, looks like we have Lincoln length tracks. So these are the individual links being glued onto the drive sprockets, and then the lengths to create the sag for the top. And then the lower sections gives you a nice little breakdown of what parts go in each section. And to me, this link and length tracks seem to work really well. I've used them a few times and they're really good. Step 11, putting the upper hull onto the lower hull. Step 12, hull parts. Step 13, which is the gun, which we'll take a look at that on the sprue and see what it looks like. More hull parts, attaching the gun and the commander. Then in the back, we've got the tow rope, tow cable assembly, and the associated parts. And then shows how to apply the Zimmerit if you're doing it putty style. If using putty to recreate Zimmerit, separately sold 1/35 Zimmerit coating applicator, item 35187, is recommended. Use separately sold masking tape to demarcate as shown at right. So it shows you where to where the demarcation is between the bare metal and the Zimmerit. So that's kind of cool. Shows you how to do that. And that is the instructions. Next, we have this groovy background information on the German heavy tank destroyer Elefant, and just gives a little of the background there. Design competition, which would eventually result in the Tiger 1 in 42, is between Henschel and Porsche, which created the VK4501H and VK4501P prototypes respectively. Yeah, the latter, which would end up being the Elefant, had a hybrid gasoline electric powertrain. So that's kind of groovy. I guess that was part of the problem, was copper was in kind of not plentiful supply, and there was a lot of copper needed for those electric motors, so they just went with gas only. But anyway, just some interesting information. And then on the back we have the marking and paint scheme, which not very many decals. Wow, really only two that I can see. That's weird. But we have the decals and the paint scheme, which is, what colors are those? Yeah, it looks like a tricolor scheme. So that is the last of the paperwork. Okay, next up is the decals. And yes, there are 3 decals. 2 number 102s and a U. So that's it. Not too tough. Not a whole lot to have to worry about there. Here are the weights here, and apparently this is I've never built one of the Tamiya 148 scale armor kits, but my son has, and the one he built was a Sherman Firefly, and it had a metal lower hull to give it a little bit of weight, because being a smaller kit, really super lightweight, and I guess he wanted to add a little bit of heft to it. But on later offerings by Tamiya for 148 scale armor, they went with plastic hulls and some weights to put in there to give it a little bit of, a little bit of weight. So this is what it comes with: 4 metal bars that glue in the bottom of the hull. All right, let's take a look at the A Sprue bag. I've taken the contents out of the bag. It just comes in a regular polyethylene or whatever bag that's stapled for each sprue, or in this case 2 A sprues. Also in that bag were the ever popular Tamiya poly caps, which is more like a sleeve than a cap, but hey, for the wheels. And then some nylon string of the appropriate size and pattern to replicate the tow ropes. Now personally, I prefer copper tow ropes because they work really well, but I have used the Tamiya nylon string thing, and other brands as well, and it actually works pretty good. There's some little tricks you can use to make it work and look a little bit better. One of them I use is for the end of the cable. Before I put it in the tow rope, I'll put some super glue on there just to make sure it doesn't fray and gives it a little bit of rigidity, so it works on the little notch on the tow cable here a little bit better. Then I've used white glue, thinned white glue, you know, just regular old Elmer's or whatever they have around the world, just PVA glue, and coat the cable in that just to give it a little bit more structure so it's not so stringy and lightweight feeling. And then once you paint it, it looks good, it's passable. But yeah, that's what's in the bag: poly caps and the nylon string and Sprue A, and there's 2 of these. And on here we've got the road wheels, toe shackles, the cable ends, suspension parts, drive sprockets, the link and length track. So basically it looks like this whole thing here is one side of the vehicle, because you get one of each of everything, or 2 of each of whatever it is. So it's kind of cool the way they have it broken down. The tracks, the detail on them is really good, very fine. On the back, you may not be able to see them on the camera because they are very, very shallow, but there are some ejector pin marks. And really the only reason you can see them is because it's shinier than the surrounding simulated cast texture of the track. Like on this one small piece here, there's 1, 2 there. On this longer piece, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's some on the ends, but I think they're super shallow. So I mean, a quick pass with a curved edged blade would probably eliminate those. Just a quick brush with a sanding stick would probably eliminate those pretty well. And you know, if you wanted to be real tricky, you could just eliminate the ones that are visible once they're in place, you know, where the wheels would be. So you definitely want to get these outside edge ones, but they're not bad. They might show up with weathering, but maybe not. The Sprue Gates on the tracks look pretty good. Like right here, the Sprue Gate is on more of the flat portion of the track link part, so it just, you know, you're not going to worry about a curved surface to sand or anything like that. Same with these individual links. Detail on the wheels looks really nice. This must be a spare track link here. And then this here is one of the ends that holds the 4 metal bars to give the weight to the hull. So looks really good. Parts look nice on here, and there's 2 of them, 2 A sprues. Okay, next up is Sprue B, and on here we have looks like the gun parts, the trunnions here, all the separate parts for the gun, the breech mechanism, all that kind of stuff. Hatch, here's the jack here, and here is the figure, all here. More tow cable ends, another length of spare track, gun travel lock, tools, periscope, whatever you call that, I can't remember what it's called now, rangefinder I think, just some other various parts. So the barrel, let's talk about the barrel since there's an Aber barrel to look at. Looks really good. It is molded as one piece for the barrel itself. And then for the muzzle brake, you just glue this piece on there. And I've built those kind of guns from Tamiya in the past, and they do clean up really well. So there's no worry about horrible seam lines or anything. They fit together really well. And if you're going to have the hatch open, you'll have to clean up some ejector pin marks there, which again, they're really shallow. Shouldn't be hard to clean. I mean, you could sand those off because this is all flat with no detail. But it looks like the other parts, there's a small ejector pin mark here on this this other hatch, so that'd be easy enough to clean up. So yeah, that all looks pretty good. That's Sprue B, which is all the gun parts, and then the figure. Let's look at the figure real quick. Okay, now that's a 1/48 scale figure, so he's tiny, but it looks like it's molded really well. The seams aren't too bad. The mold seam lines, they aren't too bad, and the detail on the face looks really good. So you can make that that bloke look pretty good. One thing that might freak some people out is the headset, the loop that goes across top of his head should be, there should be a gap between that and his head, but it's molded in place. But there's not really any other way you could do that other than making it a separate piece. So I guess if you wanted to get real tricky, you could cut that part off and file, sand down, trim that bit of material in between that and his head, and then just use a small piece of photo etch or something and just bend it in a loop and glue that in place to make it look a little bit more realistic if you really wanted to do it. But anyway, yeah, that looks pretty good. That's Sprue B. Next up is Sprue C, which is the lower hull, sides, bottom. The armor plate, I believe this is for the front. This is the front where the bow machine gun is. I'm not sure if that's the back plate or not. Must be. I'm thinking that's the mount for the gun, perhaps. I'm not really sure. And then the engine deck here with a hatch, where the one positionable hatch goes. So not much to see there, but the detail's really good. The bolt detail, they actually look like bolts and not just round bumps. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Sprue C. And Sprue D, which is, these are the front fenders, mud guards, whatever you want to call them. The hull top, the front where the gun protrudes from the casemate, the back, the fenders, and the sides. So again, these really look like bolts and not just lumps. And the detail's good. One thing that's kind of cool about these kits is they haven't added an excessive amount of parts. For example, they could have done these parts here, this hatch, these two small hatches, you know, the commander's cupola. They could have done those as separate parts. You know, this access, I guess would be a loader's hatch in the back. You know, as separate parts, and they chose to, you know, keep it somewhat simple. Now here's one thing I'll note, and this is pretty cool, that kits often mess up on when they have interlocking armor plate hull structures. As you can see here, you've got the cut in there for the plate that's going to go on the back. which is this right here. They really do interlock. And where the seams are along the edge of a weld. So that way when you put the parts together, if you use like a liquid cement or something and just make sure it blends together seamlessly, which is quite normal for Tamiya kits, you don't have a weird seam. Sometimes they'll do the seam, it'll be straight across, or it'll be partway through this protrusion here, this part that extends out from the armor plate, and you have a seam you have to deal with. So they've designed these, they've engineered these seams. Same with the roof. They just kind of interlock in place, and I'm guaranteeing this thing fits together like a champ. With the use of liquid cement, you are not going to have a seam anywhere on the whole parts. So that's just something to take note of on this kit. It's just evidence of Tamiya's awesome engineering. Got I don't know if you not really diamond plate, but a textured mud guard / fenders here, which is nice. The detail of the hinge pin going through looks really good. You know, just, man, the ability for model kit companies to mold awesome parts these days is just pretty phenomenal. More of the textured fenders here. Ejector pin marks are all in places where parts are going to cover it, so there's no need to clean those up, which is always nice. There's none in the middle of the textured area. So yep, just another fine Tamiya kit, it looks like. So that is Sprue D. Now for the extras. Let's do the barrel first. So we've got the Aber German 88mm Pack 34/2 L71 barrel for SDKF Z184 Elefant for Tamiya model, 1/48 scale. So you know, typical Aber barrel, really nice. The turned muzzle looks like it has a little bit of, I don't know if you'd call it flash, but there's some burrs right along the edge. I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see it right there by my thumbnail. So those would have to be filed down or sanded or something, which is kind of unusual for Aber. Usually their stuff's really super clean, but it's you know, not a big deal. But the big benefit of this over the plastic barrel, the kit barrel, is the muzzle. You get the interior detail with all these locking rings or whatever, baffles or whatever they are, and it all threads together, and just it just did a little bit of extra realism to really make it, you know, really make it pop. So yeah, Aber barrel, that is always a good, oh, it even has some nice illustrations here. But that's always a nice addition to any kit. And then finally, we have the Detail Up Parts Series 12644 Zimmerit coating sheet for 1/35 scale Elefant. So I'm thinking Keith, that's not gonna work on your kit. So scale difference aside, I'm gonna have to assume that the quality would be similar on the 1/48 scale kit, but it's got really nice texture to it. I can feel it. I don't want to open it up, but it feels good through the plastic. And I don't know if this is on a carrier film or how this works, but if it's on a carrier film, or there's no like carrier film extending past the actual pattern. So, well, it calls them stickers. So I'm assuming that these are stickers, and you would stick them on. So I don't know if you necessarily want to add adhesive or what, but what is kind of cool is there seems to be there's two patterns of Zimmerit in this package. So like on this part here, it just got the straight, you know, columns and rows pattern that's common on these. This has got it, but then with the Zimmerit pattern radiating out from this circle part here. Same here, same here. On this bit here, it's just the rows and columns, and then this part here, there's like small radiating pattern around these where the bolts come through. So that's kind of cool. Gives you two ways to do it. Same with this part here, wherever the bolts come through, there's a radiating pattern. These are just straight across. So that's, and for this part here, it's either the straight horizontal or the radiating type. So that's kind of cool. They give you options as to which way you can do it. I guess if you had some good good photographs to go from, that you'd be able to match it exactly. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll have to keep this in mind for someday when I build an Elefant kit. So there you have it, a quick rundown on the Tamiya 1/48 scale German heavy tank destroyer Elefant. So hopefully Keith will get this put together sometime in the near future, and I can report back maybe on how it worked out for him and all that sort of stuff. So again, not having built one myself, but just having experience via my son building one of these Tamiya 1/48 scale kits, and then just reading what others have had to say about it. It should go together really well because it is a Tamiya kit, and it looks like the details and everything are really nice. No cleanup, so to speak of, except for some ejector pin marks on the tracks, on the inner surfaces of the tracks, but they're very shallow, should be easily cleaned up. So yeah, it just looks like a really nice kit. So Keith, I've done the review, so now it's up to you to build the kit. So hopefully he'll report back and I can report back and add an addendum commenting on this kit. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and until next time, I will see you all later.